Hello, today I will be discussing the second part of Charlie Munger's mental models. And we've covered two parts, which is psychology, understanding of human behavior, and economics, so market forces. Today, we'll discover mathematics and probability. So it's going to be more technical. Let's have a look. So we have compound interest, which is the first mental model Charlie Munger uses to make his investment decisions. And it's across the board. These mental models essentially support your development in business because you think from first principles. You think from questioning. You don't go to receive answers first. You are searching for the right questions with the right mental models so you can precisely answer the questions that you're asking in your business. And as you go through stages of business, you'll find you need to ask more deeper questions. And the deeper you go, the more results you'll receive in improving your product or service in a business. So let's look at compound interest today. We have Einstein. So the eighth wonder of the world. Buffett's 90% of wealth came after his age 50, 99%. And 10,000 at 15% for 30 years is around 600K. Now, business applications. So these are just examples. Customer retention. So 5% improvement equals 25 to 95% profit increase. So you just need to put one step ahead every day, which will again pile up those bricks and you'll eventually build a house. So that's the kind of knowledge piece that you need to understand, that if you do something consistently every day, it just piles up and it becomes better and better. That's whether it's in relationships, whether it's in business, whether it's in your health. If you take care of your health from your kind of 20s and you go to the gym, it's easier to take care of your health in your 50s and 60s. It's easier to go to the gym and work out when you're kind of aged as well, because you've been doing it for so long that your body's adjusted to it. Same thing with business and money. So if you lose money, and this is a huge issue with credit cards, where people get a huge amount of interest on credit cards and loans, that they go into decline of compound interest. So there's a positive compound interest and then there's a decline in compound interest. And most people, usually because they want to purchase things that give them instant gratification to elevate their status in society, they are willing to take on negative compound interest. They're willing to take on loans, debt, etc. When interest rates hit you, that compounds over time, leading you to much deeper rabbit hole of negative wealth, so poverty essentially. Whereas the opposite is also true. So if you invest whatever money that you earn, a percentage of that goes into investment fund or mutual fund or shares, whatever is suitable within your understanding base. If you keep investing that and you understand that you can get around 15 to even 10% is good, but 15 to 30%, if you can get that returns on your investment, that eventually compounds long term. Over 10 years, 20 years, 30, and just the ball keeps getting bigger. It's like snowball effect. There is this, you're rolling down a hill and there's momentum and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger until it becomes like super big and you have this big chunk of money like Buffett did after age 50. He got his 99% wealth. Same for Charlie Munger. All these investors who invest for decades, they get their returns after 20, 30 years. And they are returns which are incomparable to any trading return or any trader's day-to-day investing. So what you have to understand here is everything compounds, whether it's positive or negative. That's with thoughts as well. If you think more positive stuff, those positive will compound in your life. Same thing with negatives. If you think more negative stuff, you'll see more negative stuff around you. This mental model applies to almost everything in life. Even knowledge. So knowledge compounds. So Charlie reads 500 pages daily. Relationships, like I mentioned earlier, it's easier to stay friends who you've been friends with 10, 20 years ago than to make new friends. And even in business, like if you have a business partner, if you have suppliers, if you have vendors, all of them, even customers, like if I purchase some product from, let's say, Apple, I trust Apple and that trust has been for years because I've been using their products. So I wouldn't go to any other brand. Same thing with your business. If you can develop a relationship with your customers, which can compound over time and it keeps getting better and better and better. Your service keeps improving, your product keeps improving, and your relationship with your customer keeps improving. They won't go anywhere else. You have that competitive advantage of your compound relationship with your customers. And yeah, that's the same thing with your friends, your family, everything compounds. Implementation. Reinvest all profits initially, focus on retention over acquisition, and build systems that improve daily. So this part if I had to understand it from my end, that would be if I can set one goal to achieve today and I achieve it, and then the next day I set another goal and I achieve that, it just slowly compounds like every single day. And I've built that system for that goal to be achieved. You can also think about this in your habits. So whatever you do in your day, that reinforces itself. And if you want to build a new habit, you have to start small. You have to do that habit at a micro level. Let's say you want to read. You have to start with at least 1 to 2 pages of daily reading. And then maybe you can bump it up to 5 pages or then 10 pages. So it's a micro compound of a particular habit. I did this in my life where in the morning when I get up, I usually read 30 minutes of meditation, and then 30 minutes where I do my cold plunge, go to the toilet, etc. And then I do yoga. And that, I can tell you, like for the longest time, that was the hardest thing to do. Like it was really hard for me to get away from my phone and do that morning routine. But I just started, like first day was like very small, like just 10 minutes of reading, and then it got better. Like I was like, I want to read more, so then it got to 30 minutes. And then same thing with meditation. It's very hard sitting and not doing anything. It's extremely hard because in today's world we have the technology to keep stimulating our dopamine levels and keep all the notifications that we receive that drive our inner anxiety. All of that is there to trigger a movement, and meditation is literally not doing anything. So if there is no input, we feel the urge to do something, which is a huge issue because we should not be doing anything as well. During meditation, I mean. So being still in today's day and age is super hard. So to achieve that, you just start with 5 minutes, start with 2 minutes, and then slowly compound it over time. And that becomes a habit. Then you'll be able to do like 30 minutes, for example. Essentially, if you want to do anything worthwhile in life, if you want to see amazing results in life, it comes from compound interest. It comes from you doing it over and over again with daily practice, daily implementation, and that keeps getting better. You keep getting better at that particular thing, and then you become a master at it. And the more you do it, the more better you become. So same thing with habits, same thing with money, same thing with relationships. You have to invest time in relationships, and that compounds over time. So that is compound interest for you. Then we have proper laws, and then we have power laws. Power laws, so 80-20 rule applies everywhere. I recently came across a podcast, A Diary of a CEO, where Kevin O'Leary, he's the guy from Shark Tank, and he talked about how Steve Jobs had this 80-20 principle as well, where he applied 80% of his mind power, his energy in doing one task. And then the 20% was just noise, and it was just regular mundane day-to-day tasks that you have to do. So you want to try and implement that as well, where 80% of your day is just filled with one task that you have to do. And it's concentrated. Your energies are there. It's your mind power is concentrated to this particular thing, and something emerges out of it. Something you discover that you couldn't see because you had so much noise. And like, I get it. Being an entrepreneur and being in business, there has been many times where there's a lot of clutter everywhere. There's chaos. You have to solve 10,000 problems every single day. It's not easy. But the biggest problem you have to solve is saying no to everything in your day-to-day and saying yes to the thing that's most important for you. So you have to kind of block out your time for the most important thing of that day that will push your business forward. And I am implementing this current rule. Like, I'm trying to think about it, and it's in my awareness at the moment, and I'm trying to do it. So most of my time actually goes, and you can say, taking care of my house, taking care of my body. So cooking, doing my morning routine, yoga, gym, etc. Most of my time goes into that because that kind of trains my brain into doing that task efficiently, the one task that will push my business forward. And you shouldn't have 10 tasks in a day. And that's what I've realized this year, especially. I thought about automating the business a lot last year, but I really didn't get through to it. And I didn't really set up systems and processes. I had people working for the business, but it wasn't efficient. It wasn't easy. It wasn't flow. But then this year, I did a bit of hiring more and firing as well. So getting good people on, removing bad people off, and making the machine, which is the business, much more strong in terms of efficiency. So making my business more efficient, that led to me being able to concentrate my energies into one task daily. That's what you should try and do as well. If you can, try your best to not do 10 things in a day. Just keep it to 1 or 2 things that are most important that will push your business forward. That is your 80%. Energy should go into that particular task. 20% is the noise. So you have, Instagram, chatting to people, etc. That's all noise. Management, that's all noise. Nothing to do with what's that one thing that's really important for your business to grow. So for example, Microsoft's Windows Office basically gives them 80% of their profits. Same thing with CD Baby. So 20% of artists equals 80% of sales. And then a VC, any VC that exists on this planet, all of them have one or two investments max that give them their entire portfolio return. For example, for Blackbird, it was Canva. So if something goes really big, that's when they get their returns. And that is like the 20% gives them the most returns. Or wherever the 80% of the energy goes gives them the most return. So implementation, identify your 20% that drives 80% and double down on winners. Cut losers fast. So you want to be making your machine, which is your business, as efficient as possible. You don't want this energy dispense on a 50-50 level. You have to have a lot of your energy going into one thing and a very less or concentrated energy going into one thing. So it can be your time. It can be your understanding, it can be your learning, is that 80% or that 20%, for example. You can also swap it around. Like if you have a business where you can't hire people or you don't have the ability to hire more people to do that 20% of work or 80% of work, you can just manage your time in a way where you're concentrating 20% at this one thing and 80% is just all noise. So yeah, that is Harvard laws, where your energy basically flows, where your control should be, essentially. Law of large numbers, patterns emerge at scale. So the more you do your business, the more you have data of your customers, the more you have knowledge of investors, people, vendors, suppliers, the more knowledge you have, essentially, you can recognize patterns across the board. You can see what's working and you can see what's not working. If you have 10,000 products, you can see the 5-10 products that are going to work, and you can see those 9,000 products that are not going to work for your business. So when you have a large amount of data, you can see patterns, essentially. Permutations, combinations, so understanding possibilities, decision trees, mapping, probability pathways. I haven't done this yet, but this might be useful in understanding how you can use analytics data to create patterns, especially now because of AI. You can probably do that better, as you can track down your data, understand your analytics, and kind of use that as probabilities of future outcomes, which is your decision-making tree. So how you make decisions, and you can map that. So you can also map your decisions then. So it's like predicting your future with the data that you have, which is concentrated and analyzed, and it's in pattern. So that can eventually lead you to your future. So that's what decision trees are essentially for. Mean reversion. So extremes tend toward the average. So if I had to explain this, essentially you have one price. This is like financial literacy. So if you have one price and you hike it up to a particular price, that price will essentially drop after a certain time and it will come back to its mean. So it will come back to its average. So let's say this is inflation, like it's and your price is over here and you're going to increase it. And this is the high price that you're basically having customers pay. Eventually, within a period of time, it'll naturally come back down to the average price, adjusted to inflation. Extremes tend toward average. So anything that happens at an extreme level, it will come down. It's like a mountain type image or graph if you want to analyze it. So that was mathematics and probability. Now we have physics, engineering, so systems for thinking. Critical mass. These are quite in-depth concepts, and this knowledge is new knowledge. It's not for the average person who's trying to go from start a business to grow a business. This is kind of from the growth stage to the scale stage. So these are deeper concepts of business. Critical mass. Nothing happens until tipping point. So hush puppies, 30K to 430K pairs when hipsters adopted. Like uranium, so chain reaction at a critical mass. So essentially everything has its tipping point or threshold that when it crosses, it will scale or it will expand, it will become bigger in size by 10x, 20x. We don't know. But that critical mass, you have to try and see in your business what that is. If I had to show you on a graph line, again, the mountain thing. So the critical mass is when it hits the middle point. And for example, for AI, critical mass was achieved when ChatGPT came into the masses. So when it was released to the public, ChatGPT, that's when everybody got to know about AI. And that's when everybody started using AI into their daily life. So that hit critical mass and it was adopted by everybody. But there was AI existent before that. There was AI, basically coding language that now we say by typing to AI, this is just code. And these softwares work on code. So AI, it has its own intelligence, obviously. But before it's coming to a forefront of the public, there was automation processes before. There were agents before that were working behind the back, like software does, like coding does. And when you write some code, you can have a website that comes up, etc. All of that is just agents. Those are just scripts that the computer operates on. And that was there for the longest time. But that came into critical mass and adoption by humans when ChatGPT created a user chat interface. So that's a recent example. So implementation, focus all resources on one area. Don't spread them across markets. Measure leading indicators. So this is also an investment. It's also in business, both. You want to focus on one thing. You'd want to do 10,000 things or spread across 10,000 things, because that will, again, if you are trying to make 10,000 boats afloat, none of those boats will float. So you want to try and focus on one thing, make it better. If you have a current running business, it's easier to go to the next stage in that business than it is to start a new business and go from one stage to another, to the same stage that you reach in business. It was a hard thing for me as well. And it's continuously hard for me because I always have to tell myself that there are other opportunities in the market and there are so many new things that are coming up in the market that I can use and I can adopt in terms of skills and knowledge, and that I can create a business out of it or start something new. But for me to take this business to the next level, it's an easier thing and it will give me more returns than going from one stage in business to the same stage that I am right now in for Ayurveda store. So like, don't spread across markets, then measure leading indicators. So if something's working, you don't want to change it. You want to improve on top of it, essentially. And that will hit critical mass one day. So that is where your business and product market fit happens, and then that business expands. So you have to reach that critical mass. Leverage. So this is also quite an interesting concept, leverage. People don't understand what leverage is. I came across this through Naval on his podcast, How to Get Rich. And he talks about leverage. And that was for the first time where I kind of came across, I didn't really understand it, what it was. But now, if you think about it, now I will not do anything that is not of leverage. And I'll explain to you what that means. Small forces create massive outcomes. So Steve Jobs cut Apple from 350 products to 10 products. 97% reduction created 1,000% value increase. Archimedes, give me a lever long enough and I'll move the world. So find highest leverage activities, writing scales, meetings don't, build once, sell repeatedly, automate repetitive tasks. So you know how like you go to work, you have a particular working hour rate. So everybody has their hourly rate, whoever goes to work. But for an entrepreneur, for a person who's creating something, they don't usually have hourly rate. In fact, their hourly rate is very low at the start. In fact, they're losing money at the start. But when they keep working at it, they keep chipping away, they keep growing, that hourly rate becomes exponential to a particular person in a job, for example. That return becomes exponential because they have sacrificed their time, which they have essentially not given that time away for money. They have used that time to create something, to build something. That building at the start won't make them money, and it's not a return straight away. But after a while, after a couple of years, after 10 years, that whole building becomes so big that the returns are insane. It's exponential. Essentially, compound interest and this are the same. You're using leverage, which is in terms of people, in terms of technology, in terms of money. These are all types of leverage. So money is a type of leverage. So you use money to move people around. People are a type of leverage. You use people's skills and knowledge to move your business up, to improve your business. And you use these leverage options that you have to grow the business and expand the business. Leverage is a huge thing. And that's why non-leverage based tasks, like I'll give you an example of this particular, like my business. It's e-commerce, so it's online, and we distribute to Australia, we distribute to New Zealand and the world. We have orders coming in from the entire world. So the distribution of my products, the leverage is technology. The leverage is the shipping systems that we use to distribute to customers. That is leverage. Technology, I use to distribute products around the world, throughout New Zealand. So it's tech-based, you can say. Tech enables that push of products out to the world. If a person is in a night market, for example, or some kind of farmer's market, that person has a limited number of products selling to a limited number of people that come into that market. That entire shop, even a retail shop, for example, if it doesn't have an online website or whatever it is, if there's a retail retail shop, it only has that one type of location customers that come to it. There's not going to be like other things. Technology is not going to enable that retail shop to reach out to the world. So that's what technology means. That's what leverage essentially means. It's using your knowledge, your skills to build something that can essentially have a large impact at scale. So you want to gather as much leverage as possible. Leverage, again, people, resources, skills, money. That's why Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, all these, like any smart person reads all day long, because reading is leverage. You can get one idea and that can change your entire life. Same with, for example, dating. If you find the right person on the date, you can have entire lifelong relationship with them. It's essentially a leverage-based task. You're going on multiple dates and you're finding out the right person. Once the right person hits, you can have the entire life to spend with them. Now, if you go to a particular job, if you go to work, you will never have that. It's impossible to get leverage if you have an hourly rate on you. That's why growth is not existent. And there is obviously growth in a job if you have equity, if you kind of climb up the ladder. Like you can still grow in a job, but it's not as exponential as going from 0 to 1 million, 10 to 100 million in just 5 to 10 years. Like it's not seen in a job as a scenario. And in a business, that is possible. In a business, you can go from stages to hit revenue within a couple of years, 4 years, 5 years, you can hit that revenue. And it comes like if there's a product market fit, then you can use more leverage. You can have more people with you. That's why these companies hire so many people, because people are leverage. And now AI agents are leverage. So that is what leverage means. Essentially, you have all the tools, resources, and you're using that in a way where you can have the highest output. Content, for example, is a piece of leverage. So if I'm putting out a video every day, I don't know which video will hit, but that one video that hits is going to end up getting me a lot of followers later on. You have to have leverage-based mindset that what tasks do I do in a day that have the highest impact on the business moving forward and growing upwards, whether that's hiring someone, whether that's improving this one structure in the business. It's not like packing, for example, for me. Like I don't do packing in my business. It's product that we send out, but I don't do the packing. I have people who do the packing for me because it's a non-leveraged task. So it doesn't scale. There's a particular number of packages you can pack at a particular number of time and you can't grow from that. But if I do one piece of content marketing, if I create an ad, for example, that will scale the business 10 times if it works. And I've spent a bit of time on this because it's very important to grasp this concept of leverage. A lot of entrepreneurs, they don't have it. They just open a retail shop or they do night markets, or if they have a product, they're like constantly going around. Like it's not going to scale. Like the business is not going to scale. It's not going to hit critical mass. And I see so many businesses failing because they can't adapt to the technology that is existent. And that's the beauty. Like we have young people who are driven, who can build businesses, because the older people generation, they don't want to put in work or tasks to implement those technology. They don't even understand that technology that exists right now. So there's a wealth kind of transfer because of leverage, because of technology. So that's leverage for you. Momentum. All of this, again, it's kind of synced together. It's like one thing that you have to understand is this concept of how small things can lead to big things when that energy is concentrated. You're doing this one task again and again, and you know it's a leverage-based task and it can hit critical mass. Once it hits critical mass, you can have that exponential growth. That's why like some people think that luck is a thing, but like if you work on yourself, there will be a time and place where there will be a need for your product, for your service. And when there's that time and place when that needs it, it'll be a critical mass hit. So it'll explode. That is essentially luck. Is you're in the right time at the right place and there's a need for your product and you supply that product or service, and that leads to multiple opportunities and abundance of wealth. Essentially, momentum. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion. This applies to everything in life. If you have one habit, it's easier to keep that habit than to take it away. Even with health, it's easier to take care of your health if you have already been taking care of your health. Again, compound interest, margin of safety, buffer against failure. So you should be able to fail, essentially, to learn. So if you try out something, it's good if you fail in it, because that failure will essentially get you closer to that critical mass. Or if I want to sync all of these together, if you put your energy 80% into this one particular task and you fail at it, you have data and analytics that you can use to make better decisions with the decision tree. That data and analytics can improve your further decision making, your judgment, into that 80%. So it's like a feedback loop. And essentially, you want to avoid kind of risk of ruin, bankruptcy. You want to avoid anything that will not get you moving, will deteriorate your health. For example, too much drinking is not safe for you. It's not safe for your mind. It's not safe for your body. So this is what I mean. Like like by margin of safety is you want to always keep the safety net underneath you to ensure that you don't fail beyond a certain point. You don't fail beyond a certain threshold. You don't go bankrupt, essentially. Redundancy and backup systems need fail safes. So things sometimes happen. For example, COVID happened and the restaurant industry completely shut down for the 2 years. So you need a backup plan if something like that happens. And this is also Nassim Taleb's anti-fragile philosophy. It kind of interlinks here is if you are healthy and you got COVID, you won't be as sick as a person who has a weaker immune system. You will be less fatigued. You'll be less phased by the bacteria, the virus, than a person who's elderly or who is a kid or a child. They essentially have weaker immune systems. They can be more receptive and fragile to the virus. So same thing over here with your business. If something goes bad, you need a backup plan. You need to ensure that you don't fall beyond a certain threshold, bankruptcy, for example, in a business. So you want to create systems essentially that will prevent you from going below a certain threshold of failure. And that is physics and engineering. So systems for thinking. Now, we go into biology and evolution. Again, all of this is the same kind of core concept that is natural to human evolution, as well as understanding what we don't need is we don't need noise, 10,000 things that people are telling us to do in business, which is essentially not valuable. We need this. This is how nature works. And there's a natural process of how businesses work and how product market fit happens. And it's just some code that you have to crack or understand. And once you solve the piece of puzzle, once you crack the code, you can essentially grow and create wealth, which is the goal of these kind of videos, that creating businesses, creating value for society. Natural selection. So this is now biology and evolution. So adaptation wins. What this means is any creature on this planet who is not able to adapt, who is not able to move with the times, will die. It will not survive because the times change so fast. And basic evolution theory is if you're not able to survive or adapt to your current nature and environment, you will die. The cell is bound to die if it's not able to survive for example, a COVID virus. If it's not able to survive that, if it's not able to adapt to that, it will die. So it's a part of nature, and humans were super adaptive. But now because of AI, we have to become even more adaptive. We have to 10x our adaptation because the growth in AI is exponential. Ecosystem thinking, so everything connects. Everything you'll notice, whether that's in your health, whether that's in your relationships, whether that's in business or job or money, everything connects. If you have generally good body, good health, you'll make better decisions. This is why people who burn themselves out in business, it's super hard to grow if you keep burning yourself out because you need a calm mind. You need a mind that can concentrate on tasks to push that business forward. And that task is super crucial for the business. First things first is we have to know that if we want better decisions in the business, not burning out, not fatiguing, and taking care of the body is as important as working in the business. So yes, getting more clients, getting more customers, working in the business is important. But health is more important because that is what will drive. If you don't have space for yourself, if you're not able to breathe in, like, what is the point of business? What is the point of business if you're not able to say no to the things that are not important, or like if you're not able to delegate repetitive tasks? This is why people get caught up. And I've seen this with so many people who suffer from just constantly at it. Like they never have time for people around them. They never have time for themselves. Like, what is the point of living if you're not gonna take out time for what is important, which is you and your health? So there are ways out of the business. Like the one thing is you have to trust people. You have to find the right people for your business because the right people will push your business forward, and you won't have to work a lot as well if you choose the right people. And being kind of in this space, like for me, like the biggest turning point in my business when I took a break from all the chaos that goes on in my business, all the chaos that goes on in day-to-day life. When I took a break and I was like, no, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to go away for a week and not do work, essentially. Because I was working for almost 8-9 months continuously after my uni. That break was super crucial and I needed it. Otherwise, essentially, you just burn out, and there's nothing more bad than losing your health. And it's so easy to get caught up in the trap of just one task more, just that one client more, just that one, bit of piece that I have missing. Like I'll do that today, so I don't have to do it tomorrow. That entire mindset, it was really hard for me to get out of. Being really honest, it was really hard for me to like stop work, because in a job environment, like you can easily do that. Like just clock off at like 6, so you don't have to do anything afterwards. Like you can just chill, whatever. It's not your headache to whatever happens in the business. It just happens, right? But if you're a business owner, there are multiple things that you have to ensure that so the business works. And for you to keep doing that, for you to implement, it's hard for you to stop. It's hard for you to not do those tasks and to not put it on for tomorrow. But that's what is important. It's important to give yourself that break, that ease of operation in a business. That's why doing one task is all you need in a day. Like one good task done, that's your day done. Like what I do is now I've just got this one task that I do in a day, and the rest is just management. So I just manage the business, management issues, etc. So I just take care of that. Otherwise, it's just one task that's super important for that day. For example, scripting, shooting, doing emails, etc. So I've delegated each day for a particular task that's going to push the business forward. And the rest of the day is just management. So that is my 80-20 type thing. And coming back to everything connects everything is like an ecosystem. You'll realize if you're healthy, your business will be also healthy. If you're in a good mental state, your business will also be somewhat better. Obviously, there's ups and downs in business. There's always going to be fluctuations in business. Business is never stable. But for you to adapt to that, for you to keep going, like the survival of your business is dependent on your health. Constant adaptation required. So again, in a business, there is no stability. Every day is going to be the same. It's always fluctuating. It's always up and down. And you have to constantly innovate. You have to constantly adapt. It is tiring at times, but that's why you take the break. So you can recharge and come back to it. So you want to keep innovating. You want to keep finding your next growth curve. And that's like how I understand everything, how I learn is through finding my next growth curve. So there is this, you can call it mountain, you can say. It's like wave that goes, and you want to try and be at the start of this wave here. So before it spikes, you want to try and be over here. That's how investment also works. You always want to be here before the business does like a run up. And then you sell over here, obviously. And for most businesses that are good, they will go like this. So they will go upwards, sort of. And that's how Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger made money, as they invest in the long term. What I usually look at is how I can enter here. And because of the changing times and the rapid adaptation of AI, I try and find businesses that are here. And if they go up, I try sell over here. Sometimes you won't get it right. Sometimes you just have to feel it. You have to be involved in the business a lot. So that's what you have to look for, is before AI comes, what problems can you solve, for example, that will be required in the future. That's how businesses are built. Businesses are not built on the products that are needed right now. Good businesses are built on products that are going to be required in 10 years down the line. And that is what you work on right now. For example, pure water in the future will be required as much, like a lot more than it is valued right now. Pure water, like we get bottled water, etc., that is at a particular price right now. But after 10, 20 years, as pollution rises, as waters get more contaminated, filters as well, they will be required a lot more. So if you're a company building filters, building air purifiers, building any sort of purification system for waters or bottling water, you'll do very well 10 years down the line, because that is what is needed. So you have to kind of predict the future, what will be required in the future, and then work today on it so you can come before there's a spike and there's a need for that. Specialization survives. So you have to sort of make yourself unique. For me, it was like Ayurveda, technology, AI, like natural medicine, like these sort of things that I became really good at. And then I can package it in a way where I have products and then I have services, and there is a need for it. So like, this is my kind of niche that I operate in. Everybody has their own niche, and you enjoy your niche. There's no other competition around you, because you keep evolving within your own niche and you keep growing. So you don't want to do 10,000 things. You want to do one thing really well and keep adopting that one thing. Keep improving on that one thing every single day. And it'll hit critical mass one day. That's where the luck strikes, and it will explode. It will grow. So that is biology and evolution, and how Charlie Munger's mental models work. So I hope you enjoyed this kind of framework of understanding human behavior, psychology, evolution, and how these pieces come together to essentially grow who you are as a human being and grow your business. Take care, have a great rest of your day, and see you for the next episode on how Charlie thinks. It's going to be quite interesting, so stay tuned.